Welcome to Stopping Goliath. My name is J Kimmel, and today we're going to discuss the Texas legislature voting on whether or not children should be able to attend drag shows. Now, you'll find a link to an article from Texas Scorecard in the description of this video if you want to check that out later. And if you think others should know this truth, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and if you hit that notify bell, you'll be the first one to know every time we drop a new video. And we would love it if you would share this content with your friends. Share it on YouTube, share it on other platforms so that others can hear about what's going on, not just in Texas, but all over the country. And we would love to know what you think. What have your experiences been? So you can comment in the chat, and I try to answer every comment, especially those that ask questions. So first, let me make sure everyone knows who Texas Scorecard is. Texas Scorecard is a watchdog organization, and they watch the Texas legislature to see what's happening with different bills, to see how different legislators are voting, to make sure that the agenda that they're concerned about, which is a conservative agenda, is actually happening based on who we put in office here in Texas. So what is this particular legislation targeting? Well, they are targeting sexually explicit performances of any kind being marketed to or attended by minors. And I'm not just talking about 17-year-olds, I'm talking about children, like grade school age children. So what's happening at these drag shows? You've probably heard about some of them, whether it was on social media, maybe even the news, about these drag shows that are happening all over the United States. I think a lot of us think, well, it's just some guys who dress up in silly women's clothes and act real flamboyant. Well, it's far more than that, and it's far more insidious than that. In most cases, they're wearing very risque clothing. They are simulating women's bodies to an extreme degree. For example, very large breasts that are scantily clad, and so it's not just flamboyance; it's sexually explicit. They're also, in many cases, actually exposing their genitals, not covered with clothes. They're nude genitals. That's common in these events. And also, simulating sex acts is almost always part of the show. So these aren't benign events. These are sexually explicit events. And it's really important to understand how they're marketing these events. That we're not just having kids show up because somebody didn't understand what was going to happen and accidentally brought their children. These events are, for the most part, being advertised as family friendly. They're trying to get us to bring our children to these events. And if you're not sure where these are happening, there have been some here locally at bookstores, but most of them are happening at public libraries all over the country, and not just in liberal cities. They're happening in conservative towns as well. In fact, this group of people has targeted what they feel are the most vulnerable conservative areas, and many of these events are happening right in your area potentially. And just recently now, we're seeing some liberal churches that embrace homosexuality as supposedly a Jesus-approved lifestyle. We're actually seeing these drag shows happen at churches now, which is appalling all by itself. So SB 12, that's Senate Bill 12, recently went through the House here in Texas, and it passed another hurdle into becoming a law. And that was good news. In other words, we're getting closer to protecting our kids here in Texas from these events. But amazingly, 12 Democrats voted against the bill, said, hey, we should expose our children to these things. And there's not some unusual protection in this bill. There's not something that you would say, hey, well, normally I'd vote against it, but there's this thing that we need to, this freedom we need to protect. This is a very simple, cut and dry bill. And by the way, 42 legislators, primarily on the left side of the aisle, if not all on the left side of the aisle, there was a couple I couldn't find their party, were in the room but refused to vote. 42 of these representatives here in Texas declined to vote against the bill. Why would anyone want to expose our children? Again, these are children. I'm talking about 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds. I'm talking about kids. And if you see photographs coming out of these events, kids are the ones who are being solicited to come up on stage, not teenagers. Why would anyone want our children to be exposed to X-rated material? It doesn't make sense, does it? Well, it does make sense if they're trying to groom our children to believe a specific ideology. You see, most of you who are watching this video are Christians, and you have a way of thinking. You have a belief system. They have a belief system as well. And they want your children to believe what they believe, not what you believe, especially as it pertains to sexuality and to Jesus. So what can we do about it? As always, the first thing we need to do is fight this battle from our knees. We need to be praying. And I would really covet your prayers. Please pray that the children who are being exposed, there are many parents who are on purpose taking their children to these shows. Please pray that those children's minds and hearts would be protected from this evil that they're being exposed to. And support your legislators, whether you're in Texas or any other state. Support those who are standing up to fight against this type of evil, because they're facing serious backlash, serious consequences to the way they're voting and the bills they're bringing before the legislature. And you can also share this video. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and again, hit that notify bell so that you'll know every time we drop a new video. The truth is, our children's future is dependent on our behavior. They're in our custody. They are our responsibility. So let's do what's right for our children, regardless of the consequences we might face.